What you're looking at is a dogleg port exhaust manifold off an AMC. This one is from a 1980 and newer Jeep. This is from a 1970 AMC, 71 actually, 71. 70 they had square ports. If you look in the port, you see that boss there, and there's a step. It's not as prolific on that one. This is the older one. This was before air injection. I have a set somewhere that I ground these down so they're flush. What you want is smooth flow. However, the problem is with the log type, they don't flow as well as these. And this 1980 and up, 1980 and newer version is pretty much the same as a log. So there is another version that's very similar to this, but just for the driver's side. I had to do this to clear the drive shaft. Which this is on a 81. Well, the body is an 81, the chassis is not. But the pumpkin went over to your driver's side in 1980. On all the years prior to that, it was on the right side, passenger side. So they had to move that exhaust because it goes right down there and in between and then back and across. So that's why they don't flow very well. These are not the earliest. I just looked at them. So these have the bottom. We'll get to you in a minute. These do have the bosses for the air injection, but they have not been drilled or tapped. So they knew smog was coming. They didn't have to put it on that model though. Okay, the other problem is that not only does all your exhausts, except for your back cylinder here, I believe that's 7, have to make a sharp 90. But that outlet is way smaller. This is off the later version. So there you go. Bad. Less bad. Alright, I looked all over for these things, including my sock drawer and the refrigerator. And I found them on an old 401 I have sitting around in an unused chassis. So these have been ported. And this is the driver's side. And I'll flip it over here. Zoom out. So this has the way better line of flow versus the other one. And I replaced the steel nuts with brass ones because the steel ones kept corroding. So here's your air injection ports. This one was never drilled or tapped because the brake booster is in the way. So yeah, there you go. There's your piece. That's what you want. These are Thorley Tri-Wise. They're about 40 to 45 years old, somewhere in there. My dad put them on his first 401 when he bought his first Jeep truck. That was a 79. These centerpieces I added, and then I found out they would not. I must have fabricated or spaced them on 79 and newer heads, because the bolt holes in the heads are 5/16, 18, and these are 3/8, and on all the 78 and older heads they're all 3/8. So when I cut these flanges, well, flange extensions or connectors or whatever you want to call them, obviously there was no cut in them before right here. I made it so they wouldn't fit on the older, wider bolt spacing. So I couldn't get these to bolt onto my 401 after I rebuilt it. Which I found not as funny at the time. So that's why they've been cut, and I could get them to fit subsequently if I stuck a big fat screwdriver blade in there, pried on it, get my hand in the shot, pried on it, you can get this port apart. This is the problem with Thorley, at least the old Thorley headers, is they only had the individual ports, and so you'd have to pry your front primary or your rear primary away from your center, or possibly closer, in order to get all of them to bolt up. And it was a pain in the ass. So I put those connecting pieces of flange in there and welded them on a set of heads. Anyway, we went over that. So here's your tri-Y. You've got a Y here, you've got a Y here, and then you've got a Y here. Now, how come they are different lengths? They look the same because of the perspective of the camera, but if you look at them when they're lined up, one side's longer than the other. I'm not sure exactly, but I do know that this side has to clear the starter motor, and it also has to clear, you've got your front drive shaft coming through right in here. You've got your transmission cooler lines as well on that side. The left side's pretty free and clear. There's nothing over there until 1980 and newer, and then they put the drive shaft on this side, and they have a different transmission then too. So there's your Thorley tri-Ys, at least the 1982 to 1984 versions. This is a set of about 1994 to 95 Headman headers. These are 4-into-1s. You've got all 4 of your primaries coming down into one collector. And then these earlier versions had the flat plate flanges with gaskets. And I got rid of these, oh geez, maybe 10 years ago now. And the newer ones that I have on this truck right now have ball socket collectors. So there's a 3-bolt flange, but there's also a flare, and then you've got, I'll just show you underneath the truck when I get around to it. Anyway, these burned out and were patched a couple of times. I finally got tired of patching them. They're thinner tubing than the Thorleys. They have thinner flanges, but they are full-length flanges. But I always had a problem with them burning out gaskets. The ports are terrible. They don't actually match the head ports very well. I didn't take any shots of the Thorleys, I guess, to compare them, but you can't really tell. So yeah, this is 1/4-inch steel flange, and the Thorleys use 3/8. There's not much to say about these. They have similar spacing issues. I never had to beat on these to get them to fit around my starters or the transmission cooler lines, but I certainly had to on the Thorleys. So there's your Headmans. Okay, I'm kind of laying not completely under my truck, but I don't like laying in old grass and dirt, so there you've got your front drive shaft. This is a quadra-track truck, and that's all you could get behind the automatic transmissions in certain years. So there is the ball socket collector on the passenger side. It doesn't look very dramatic. It looks like it has a bell towards the right side. It comes in from the right side, and then you've got a larger section on the collector on the left side, which comes from your 4-into-1 collector right there. That's the passenger side. Here's the driver's side. You can see it's at a little bit more of a dramatic angle, so the flanges are not parallel. I can't zoom out any further. So that's that's what you get now, as far as I know, for headers, or Headman headers.